One of the most serious grammar errors writers make is writing sentence fragments. And sentence fragments simply are incomplete sentences. These are a big problem because instructors hate them, employers hate them, they're confusing for readers, and you'll soon find that if you have a bunch of fragments in your paper, it has a big impact on your grade. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you the basics of sentence structure and how to repair some of the most common sentence fragment types. I'll also show you a quick test for your sentences that you can use to determine if they are complete or fragments. So the first criteria for a complete sentence is a verb. Sometimes you're taught to look for a subject first, but a subject needs a verb, so it makes sense to look for the verb first. A verb is a word that's doing a particular job in a sentence, and that job is to express some kind of action. It could be a physical action, like run, drive, grow, laugh, yawn, fall, fly. It could be a mental action, like dream, dare, love, decide, commit, believe, question. Or it could be describing existence, like are, is, or be, or seem, or exist, or live. Actually, forms of to be, like are and is and am, are the most common verbs in English. Here's an example of a fragment from our paper, looking for an ominous dorsal fin. And right now we're looking for a verb. And the word that immediately stands out is looking, because that is people look, and look is an action. However, in this case, looking ends with ing, and ing words don't function as verbs in sentences. They need a helper, like are looking or am looking. By themselves, they don't work as a verb. And you can test this just by trying the pronoun I in front of it. I looking for an ominous dorsal fin. That doesn't work. It doesn't sound right. And then you could try he. He looking for an ominous dorsal fin. And that doesn't sound right either. You'd need the helping verb is. So since we don't have that helping verb is, looking can't be or isn't working as a verb in this sentence. And because this sentence doesn't have a verb, it's actually a fragment. There are actually a couple ways to fix this fragment. One is to add an actual verb and a subject for it. So I might say something like they look for an ominous dorsal fin. Otherwise, and what is often the case with fragments, is that I can add the previous sentence in. And often what that fragment is doing is adding a detail to that previous sentence. So it says here, to this day, along ocean beaches, swimmers cast a wary eye towards the waves, looking for an ominous dorsal fin. Instead of turning this fragment into its own independent sentence, the best solution here is just to add it to the previous sentence. Okay, so remember, a sentence must have a verb. The second criteria for a sentence is that it must have a subject. And keep in mind that a subject isn't the topic of the sentence. The subject is the person or thing that's performing the action of that verb. So let's take a look at an example. Here's one of the fragments in our paragraph, hunt for human blood. Now we have a verb here, hunt, but what's missing is a person or thing doing the hunting. What is doing the hunting? And in this case, we know it's the great white shark, but there's no noun or pronoun indicating that within the sentence. So you have a couple of choices if you want to repair this. One is to actually add a subject, like they hunt for human blood. Or you might say great white sharks hunt for human blood. But Another option is to do as we did in the last case, and that is to connect this fragment to the previous sentence because it's really an extension of that sentence. So if I paste that sentence in, let's see. And as the national news carries more and more stories of shark attacks, people perceive that sharks, in particular great whites, are turning into increasingly aggressive killing machines. And what I really want to say here is hunting for human blood. So I can take that fragment, add it to the previous sentence, and I no longer have a fragment. So, second criteria for a sentence, it must have a subject. And the final criteria for a complete sentence is a sense of grammatical completeness. Now, what this means isn't that every bit of information that you want to know is within the boundaries of the sentence. It means that the reader isn't left hanging, waiting for more information because of the structure of the sentence. So let's take a look at what I mean by grammatical completeness. Here's another one of the fragments from our paragraph. Because humans pose a great threat to them. Now, we have a verb, pose, and we have a subject, humans. But the structure of this sentence sounds to the reader like there's more information to come. For example, if I walked up to you and said, because humans pose a great threat to them, you'd probably respond by saying, yeah, what? What because humans pose a great threat to them? That sense of completeness, or lack of sense of completeness in the case of a fragment, is caused by this word because. So the simplest way to fix these kinds of fragments is simply to remove the word that is causing that sense of dependency in the sentence. Now I can say humans pose a great threat to them, and I can make that as a statement. You still don't know who them is, but that's more information that you want. That request or desire for information is not based on the structure of the sentence, and that's what we mean by grammatical completeness. So the third criteria for a complete sentence is a sense of grammatical completeness. Next, I'm going to show you a quick test you can use to determine if your sentence is complete or if it's a fragment. A quick test I use to see if a sentence is complete or a fragment is to plug it into this sentence here. He heard that. If I take a sentence and plug it in and it sounds right and makes sense, then the sentence is likely okay. But if it sounds awkward or there's something strange about the structure, it's probably a fragment. So here's an example from our paragraph that terrorized tourists and puzzle scientists as well. And I'm just going to read this aloud. He heard that terrorized tourists and puzzle scientists as well. That sounds awkward. Those two that's right here are a big clue that something's wrong. So in this case, I can tell pretty easily that terrorized tourists and puzzle scientists as well is a fragment. Let's try another sentence from our paragraph. He heard that the truth is far from what the media portray, however. That sounds fine. That makes sense. So in that way, I know that this is actually a complete sentence. So, be on the lookout for fragments in your writing. Remember to use the trick of blocking out other sentences around the one that you're evaluating and check carefully. And remember that sentence fragments are one of the most serious errors that you can make, and you need to work hard to get over making them.